So what is it actually that we would like to keep? The stuff or the memories? And why am I standing here today on this location? I will tell you in a minute, but first I will take you with me to where it first all began. And by the way, in my family's case, it wasn't about a small object, like a vase or a chair. It was about a tractor. So, unfortunately, after all those positive memories, after a few years, things went darker. My father got seriously ill, and it was actually quite a long struggle in which he never had a fair chance to fight the battle. After he passed away, our family each on our own, in our own, try to move on. And while this massive blue elephant in the room, in the garage, actually was staring at us from the corner, we each responded to it on a different way. So for me it was kind of the holy grail, you know. For me it was the best thing as a remembering of my father. But for my mother and sisters, it was more like a very painful confrontation each time they saw the tractor standing there. Each time the painful memories came up. So that's also interesting how it can be different for everyone, right? But after a while, it was getting too tense, and I asked my best friend to once again stall the tractor in his garage for at least the unforeseen future. So it wasn't that painful anymore for my family. And that was actually there for quite some time. And while it was standing there still again, all the typical problems started to arise. You know, the flat tires, the flat battery, broken battery. Yeah, all the things that happened in a natural way because of a vehicle that's supposed to be moving wasn't. So after a while, my friend, of course, had to use the space the tractor was occupying, and it was, of course, normal to bring the tractor back home. Despite, of course, the pain that was still there for my family. So it was back in the garage. So one day I felt like I wanted to ride with the tractor. So I did the preparations to make it mobile again. So I jumped on it. I did the routine to get her started. And once I was on it behind the wheel, I could look over the blue long nose, you know, and that gives me the vibe of the of my childhood. All the times we have been riding around it with it, so I started it. It was making a lot of noise. I noticed, but I was like, okay, well, it's not a motorcycle, so this is probably normal. I just couldn't connect it anymore, so I drove out from the garage on my way to my best friend's farm, where the tractor always stood in times of need, you know, where we had a renovation going, or we were moving houses, or there were many times actually all kind of occasions where we were very thankful we had this extra backup from him. So I was driving towards his place. I was in the forest, and I made this video, which I will show you now. So after the tractor broke down, it went to a stop like 200 meters from home. I had to call my friend again. Thankfully, he could find a crane, you know, to pick the rear wheels off the ground and to push it back to the garage of my mother. And yeah, where it once again stood still there for a long period of time. So, but now broken, you know, that was to me as well a very difficult thing to swallow, you know. It was like again this setback, again the tractor needs attention, and for some reason I felt very annoyed by it, but also very guilty, so kind of remorse, like why am I not maintaining it properly. So then things took a very nice turn, a very positive turn actually. In the summer, no, in the spring of 2023, I went to this Volkswagen festival, which is on the exact same location as the place where I always went with my father and my uncle actually, which was very nice to look at old tractors, old classics, and yeah, just walk around and looking at what we both liked. But I felt actually quite alone on that occasion, because I was very aware of the likeliness, right, or the similarities, but missed my father of course a lot. And but I also felt he was with me even on that occasion. But then I was looking around, I was looking at the lake with all these nice what's the English word, small little shops, you know, and that remembered me of all the little shops that were there as well back then, with all the tractor parts. And now they were full of Volkswagen parts and stuff like that. But it suddenly hit me like that I loved these Volkswagen buses, mainly actually. There were more things, but that was my thing. I like that way much more than a tractor. Sorry, Dad, but that was true. I always knew that, of course. It's not that suddenly that was the case, but it was like I could feel it really deep, something like that, right? So it just connected, because if I look back, even with the story about the tractor breaking down, it was like a sign, because I was always annoyed by the thing breaking down, like having the flat tire or the broken battery, or even now the transmission completely stuck. But to be honest, to be completely honest, it wasn't the lack of transmission oil that did it. It was the lack of my attention towards it. And then it was like the connection I made instantly, like, wow, but this would never happen to my motorcycle I was having back then. I always kept it in pristine condition. Like I did all my maintenance myself, everything way on time. I just were on it fully, you know. Every time I knew everything was up to date, everything was safe, it was all properly maintained. And then on the other hand, in the end of the garage, there was this huge thing that was being neglected. And that didn't feel right. But you have to be aware of these things, right? And I believe you can only really change things if you are conscious of things. And that's why it happened. And because of that connection, because of that awareness, there was instantly no problem anymore, because I knew it wasn't for me about the tractor anymore. It was about the memories with my father connected to that place, you know, where the festival was at the time as well. It was the togetherness with my father that was the strong memory. And I thought, how awesome would it be if I could find a motorcycle, something that is my passion, with elements of the same design period as where the tractor came from, you know, so the 50s, 60s time period. And I thought, well, if I would find a motorcycle that would have these elements with the connection to the Ford, the tractor brand. I thought that would be it. That would be amazing. And I felt instantly this huge relief, like, that's it. That's the next decision. And it was like all these heavy emotional ballast that hang around the tractor, of course. Not for me only, but for the whole family. To me at least, it instantly fell away. I became more lighter. I felt like the issue was gone. So from that moment in time, we could like more easy take the next step. Repair the tractor. We let it repaired actually by a great mechanic. And yeah, we sold it with an auction. And it took me a few months. Actually, it didn't took me any months. It was like instantly good. So it was a bit painful to let it slide away from the garage, you know, the garage is empty, the tractor is gone. But I mean, that was like an hour or two. That's nothing, right? So it was like, yeah, it was like really light actually. So, and the next couple of months I took my time looking around for my next motorcycle. And one thing that really was like a key element of an awareness part was like the similarity I shared with my father. Wow, look at the light. You see that? That's cool, right? So my father and I didn't really look like each other in the way of character. But we did have the same passion, be it classic vehicles. And I haven't put that one really as strong as I put it now. I never was aware of that part. And now, since I've known that, I connected the dots, so to speak. I know whenever I feel, whenever I have a classic motorcycle or a van, who knows, that is the connection that brings me as close as possible to my father, to my dad. So, yeah, that's actually very. That's beautiful. So, the joy of a classic. So whatever I would bring up now, the image of a Volkswagen bus, you know, the hippie buses, there is a pretty decent chance you would have a smile on your face, perhaps, you know, if you like those buses, or another classic, of course. But it does something when you are thinking of these things, you know, are thinking of these vehicles. And to me, that's what a classic can bring, should bring, but that's my opinion, of course. It should bring a smile on your face, and also, if possible, on other people's faces. Because suddenly they start to, when they're walking, they suddenly stand still and look at the vehicle. And even after that, they look at you as a driver and they smile at you. And if possible, they walk towards you and you have this very nice conversation about whatever is possible, about earlier days, about sharing their passion again. So that's a huge benefit of having a classic, or riding with a classic at least. It's a smiles per miles, but not only for you as a driver, but for everyone around. It's sharing. So with this in mind, I looked at the tractor, which was typical my father. The tractor is rough, it's bold, it's outspoken, it's simplistic, and I mean it in the best way possible. So I can imagine my sisters and my mother were totally feeling this pain of memory by looking at the tractor of my father, because my father was that tractor, you know, in a way. But even I didn't feel it that way, that heavy. And it was more even so after I put this connection, like if I can find a motorcycle that would suit my personality, with the reference, of course, of the classics, things would make it easier. And so I just needed to find a motorcycle that suits my personality. And I'm a sensitive guy. I'm very design-oriented because of my background, my studies, and my previous work. So I'm a freelancer doing graphic design work. So I'm always busy, occupied with design elements. So, and because of my sensitivity, I want a vehicle that's very sensitive on the clutch. You know, you can really feel everything while driving, but it has to be a smooth ride. Obviously not a tractor from the 50s. So it was very, I felt already lighter because of this awareness, like that my vehicle should reflect my personality, because I would feel at home on it, while still keeping this classical passion bond with my father very much alike. So here I am again at this beautiful place. And why this is so special to me is because this is the place that 15 years ago I made all those amazing photos from the tractor with my father on it, and in the evening sun, and with his face looking so proud, so full of joy and happiness. That's like the images that will last a lifetime, they say. Those are the images. And exactly now the sun comes together with this moment, so it's like wow. Yeah, almost no words actually, but this is a special place. So. So there it is. This is her. Meet the Triumph Bonneville T100 from 2017. It's a modern classic motorcycle, which design is back originally from the 1950s, 60s, 59 to be precise. A modern classic, so I said. It has the round headlight, which to me refers to the round headlights of the tractor. Of course, the chrome emblems. And it's in blue, and the color is actually very similar to the tractor of my father. Well, I just couldn't be happier than to ride with this bike. So now, every time I look at my motorcycle, there is this reference to my father's love for his classic. So every time I sit on the motorcycle and I look over the blue gas tank, or fuel tank, what is it? Looking at the dials and looking at the road and the horizon, every time I feel like I'm riding with him together as well, still.